The message came at midnight. Ambassador June Park was sleeping in his small apartment in Geneva when his communicator screamed to life. The sound was one he had never heard before. It was the emergency tone. The one they said would never be used? He read the message 3 times. The Galactic Assembly demanded his presence. Immediately. No explanation. No reason given. Just a location, a time, and a warning that failure to attend would be considered an act of war. June dressed quickly. His hands were steady, but his heart was not. In 40 years of human membership in the Assembly, no representative had ever received such a summons. Something was very wrong. Captain Hannah Kim met him at the shuttle bay. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a reputation for violence when violence was needed. She commanded the diplomatic security vessel Soul Star, and she had protected June for 3 years. "Do you know what this is about?" she asked. June shook his head. "No, but I have a feeling we will not like the answer." The journey to Orbis Prime took 6 hours. June spent most of it staring out the window at the stars. He thought about Earth. He thought about his daughter, who was 12 years old and wanted to be an astronaut. He thought about his wife, who had died 4 years ago from cancer. He thought about all the things he had done in his life and all the things he had not done. When the Soul Star arrived at the station, June felt the weight of history pressing down on him. Orbis Prime was ancient. It had been built by a species that died 1,000,000 years before humans learned to make fire. Now it served as the neutral ground where all civilizations came to talk, to argue, and to decide the fate of worlds. The assembly hall was massive. It could hold representatives from over 200 species, and today it was full. June walked through the great doors and felt every eye turned toward him. Some of those eyes were hostile. Some were pitiful. None were friendly. He found his seat in the human section. It was small. It was in the back. Humans were the youngest species in the assembly. They were treated like children at a table of adults. High Speaker Vorn called the assembly to order. Vorn was ancient, even by alien standards. His species had conquered the stars when Earth was still covered in ice. His skin was gray and wrinkled, and his eyes held the cold certainty of someone who had seen empires rise and fall like waves on a beach. "We gather today to discuss a matter of galactic security," Vorn announced. His voice filled the hall like thunder. "The Terrani Empire has submitted a petition under Article 7 of the Galactic Charter. The Purification Protocol." The hall went silent. June felt his blood turn to ice. He knew what the Purification Protocol was. Every species knew. It was the legal right to exterminate another species if that species was deemed a threat to galactic stability. It had been used only twice in history. Both times, entire worlds had burned. "The target of this petition," Vorn continued, "is the species known as humanity." June could not breathe. Around him, the representatives of 200 species watched with expressions that ranged from satisfaction to fear to something that might have been pity. Warlord Brix rose from his seat. He was Terrani, a species of warriors who had conquered 100 worlds. His body was massive, covered in thick scales, and his teeth were sharp enough to bite through metal. He walked to the central podium and smiled. "Friends," Brix said, "we all know why we are here. The humans are dangerous. They breed too fast. They adapt too quickly. They have advanced from throwing rocks to building starships in less than 10,000 years. This is not normal. This is not natural. This is a disease." He pressed a button, and images appeared in the air above the podium. Human cities. Human factories. Human children playing in parks. "Look at them," Brix said. "They multiply like insects. They consume resources like fire consumes wood. In another 1,000 years, they will outnumber us all. In another 10,000, they will own the galaxy. We must stop them now while we still can." June listened as other delegates spoke. Some agreed with Brix eagerly. Some agreed reluctantly. A few remained silent, but no one defended humanity. No one spoke against the petition. Finally, High Speaker Vorn turned to June. "The human representative may speak. You have 60 seconds. 60 seconds." 60 seconds to save his entire species. June stood. His legs felt weak, but he forced them to carry him forward. He walked to the central podium and looked out at the sea of alien faces. He saw fear. He saw hatred. He saw beings who had already decided that humanity must die. He thought about his daughter. He thought about every child on Earth who was sleeping peacefully, not knowing that their fate was being decided by strangers who feared them. June took a deep breath. He had prepared a speech, a careful, diplomatic speech designed to calm fears and build bridges. He had practiced it 100 times. Now, standing in this hall, he realized that speech would not save anyone. These beings did not want to be calmed. They wanted humanity gone, so he threw away his prepared words. He threw away his diplomacy. He threw away everything he had been trained to do. "You are afraid of us," he said quietly. His voice was soft, but in the silent hall, everyone heard him. "You should be." The hall stirred. Delegates looked at each other in confusion. "You see our numbers and call us insects," June continued. "You see our growth and call us a disease. But you do not understand what you are looking at. You are looking at survivors." He paused and let the word hang in the air. "We survived ice ages. We survived plagues. We survived wars that killed millions. We survived weapons that could burn cities to ash in seconds. We even survived ourselves." He smiled, and there was no warmth in it. "And we are still here." Warlord Brix laughed. "Pretty words, human. But words will not save you." June looked at him. "You are right. Words will not save us." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. "This will." He pressed a button. Across the galaxy, in the dark spaces between stars where no one thought to look, human ships uncloaked. Thousands of them. They appeared near the home worlds of every species that had supported the petition. They appeared in orbit around Orbis Prime itself. Alarms began to scream. Delegates jumped from their seats. Chaos erupted in the hall. High Speaker Vorn stared at the tactical displays in horror. "This is impossible. Your species does not have this technology."
"Oh."
June smiled. "You never asked what we were building in the dark." The assembly fell silent. For the first time, they looked at humanity not with contempt or pity, but with something new. Something they had not expected to feel. Fear. June stood alone at the podium, surrounded by chaos, and waited for what came next. The chaos lasted for several minutes. Delegates screamed. Guards rushed into the hall with weapons drawn. Tactical officers shouted reports that no one wanted to hear. Human warships had appeared everywhere. Everywhere. High Speaker Vorn finally restored order by slamming his ancient staff against the floor. The sound echoed like a gunshot, and the hall fell silent. "Ambassador Park," Vorn said, his voice shaking with barely controlled rage, "explain yourself. This is an act of war." June remained at the podium. He had not moved during the chaos. He had simply stood there, watching, waiting. Now he spoke. "No, High Speaker. This is an act of survival." He looked around the hall at the frightened faces. 3 months ago, we intercepted Tyrannic communications. We know you have been planning this vote for over a year. We know you have already decided the outcome. We know you expected us to come here, beg for mercy, and then die quietly." He shook his head slowly. "We do not die quietly." Warlord Brix stepped forward. His scales had turned dark red, a sign of extreme anger in his species. "You dare threaten the assembly? You are infants. Your ships are primitive. Our combined fleets will crush you in days." "Perhaps," June said calmly, "but before we fall, we will burn your worlds. Every species that voted for our extinction will lose their homeworld. This I promise you." The hall erupted again. Delegates shouted in 100 different languages. Some demanded immediate attack. Others demanded negotiation. A few simply sat in stunned silence. On Earth, in the deep bunker beneath the mountains of Korea, Admiral Tae-woo watched the transmission from Orbis Prime. He was an old man with gray hair and tired eyes. But his mind was still sharp. He had spent 40 years preparing for this day. He had hoped it would never come. All fleet commanders report status, he said into his communicator. One by one, the reports came in. The first fleet was in position near the Tirani homeworld. The second fleet held orbit around the Renari colony worlds. The third fleet surrounded Orbis Prime itself. Every ship was ready. Every weapon was armed. Hold position, Taewoo ordered. Weapons cold. Do not fire unless fired upon. Captain Hannah Kim's voice came through the channel. She was still on the Sol Star, watching the assembly from orbit. Admiral, what if they call our bluff? Taewoo looked at the tactical display. Thousands of ships, human and alien, faced each other across the darkness of space. One mistake could start a war that would kill billions. That is not a bluff, he said quietly. If they attack, we will respond. And we will not stop until they understand the cost of threatening humanity. In a different room deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Dr. Sora Lee stood before the most terrible weapon ever created, Project Black Star. It looked simple enough, just a metal sphere covered in cables and sensors. But inside that sphere was the power to collapse a star. Sora had spent 15 years building this weapon. She had told herself it was for defense. She had told herself it would never be used. Now, watching the crisis unfold on her monitor, she wondered if she had been lying to herself all along. Dr. Lee, her assistant, said, "We have received confirmation. Black Star is online and ready." Sora nodded but said nothing. She thought about the Tirani homeworld, with its billions of inhabitants. She thought about children and families and ordinary people who had never heard of the purification protocol. If she pressed the button, they would all die. Their sun would collapse into a black hole. Their world would be crushed into nothing. She prayed she would never have to make that choice. Back in the assembly hall, June continued to speak. The delegates had finally quieted, too shocked to interrupt. "We did not want this," June said. "When we first reached the stars, we were full of hope. We imagined meeting other species, learning from them, building friendships that would last for eternity. We were naive." He looked at High Speaker Vorn. "You taught us the truth. You taught us that the galaxy is ruled by fear. The strong dominate the weak. The old crush the young. And anyone who threatens the established order must be destroyed." Vorn said nothing. His ancient face was unreadable. "So we learned," June continued. "We learned to hide. We learned to build in secret. We learned to prepare for the day when you would come for us." He spread his hands. "That day is today, and we are ready." Warlord Brix laughed bitterly. "Ready? You have a few thousand ships. We have millions. You cannot win this war," June smiled. "You are probably right. Your fleets are larger. Your technology is more advanced. Your species have been fighting wars since before we learned to write." He paused. "But you have never fought us." He pressed another button on his device. New images appeared above the podium. Human soldiers training in deserts and jungles and frozen mountains. Human scientists working in laboratories. Human factories producing weapons around the clock. "We have been at war for our entire existence," June said. "We fought each other for land, for resources, for ideas. We developed weapons that could destroy our own world. And then we made a choice. We decided to stop fighting each other and start preparing to fight you." The images changed. Now they showed the human fleets, not just the ships that had already been revealed, but more. Many more. Hidden bases on asteroids. Secret shipyards in the darkness between stars. An army of millions, trained and equipped and waiting. "This is what we built in 40 years, June said. "Imagine what we will build in 100, in 1,000. He looked around the hall. "You are right to fear us, but you made a mistake. You should have been our friends instead." He straightened his shoulders and spoke in a voice that echoed through the hall. "Ambassador June Park, speaking for the United Earth Government, hereby reject the authority of the Galactic Assembly over humanity and its colonies. We withdraw from all treaties and agreements. We recognize no laws but our own." The hall gasped. "Furthermore," June continued, "I declare that any species that raises weapons against humanity will be met with total war. We will not seek conquest. We will not seek submission. We will seek annihilation." High Speaker Vorn rose from his seat. You cannot do this. The Assembly has maintained peace for 1,000,000 years. You will destroy everything. June looked at him with something like sadness. You destroyed it the moment you voted to exterminate us. We are simply responding in kind. He turned and walked toward the exit. Captain Hannah Kim was waiting for him at the doors, her hand on her weapon. Ambassador Park, Vorn shouted. This is not over. Return to your seat. June stopped at the door and looked back. You are right, High Speaker. This is not over. It has only begun. He walked out of the hall. Behind him, the Assembly erupted into chaos once again. In his bunker on Earth, Admiral Tae-woo closed his eyes. God help us all, he whispered. The war had begun. The first battle came 3 months after the declaration. The Tyranni chose their target carefully. Kellenfor was a small human colony on the edge of known space. It had only 2 million people, mostly farmers and miners. It was supposed to be an easy victory, a demonstration of Tyranni power that would break human morale. Warlord Brick sent his grand armada. 10,000 warships, each one larger and more powerful than anything humanity had built. 2 million soldiers, each one bred for combat since birth. The Tyranni had conquered 100 worlds with this army. They expected to conquer Kellenfor in hours. They were wrong. General Daeho was waiting for them. He was an old soldier with scars on his face and ice in his heart. He had 50,000 troops under his command. The math was simple. 40 Tyranni soldiers for every human. By any normal calculation, they had already lost. But Daeho was not normal. Let them land, he told his officers. Let them think they have one. Then we show them what humans can do. In orbit, Captain Hannah Kim commanded the defense fleet. She had 200 ships against 10,000. The odds were even worse than on the ground. All ships, Formation Delta, she ordered. Target their command vessels first. Make them pay for every inch of space. The Tyranni attacked at dawn. Their ships filled the sky like a swarm of metal insects. Their weapons lit up the darkness with fire and death. Human ships exploded by the dozens. Hannah watched her people die and felt nothing. There was no time for grief. There was only the battle. Helm, bring us around, she ordered. Target the flagship's left wing. Fire everything we have. The UES Defiance turned and charged into the enemy formation. It was suicide. Everyone knew it was suicide. But Hannah had learned something in her years of service. Sometimes the only way to win was to be willing to lose everything. The Defiance took hit after hit. Her shields failed. Her hull buckled. Fire spread through her decks. But she kept firing, kept moving, kept fighting, and then something strange happened. The Tyranni ships began to fall. Hannah had noticed something during the first few minutes of battle. The Tyranni followed patterns. They attacked in predictable formations. They responded to threats with standard maneuvers. They fought like machines, not like warriors. Humans did not fight like machines. Hannah broadcast new orders to every ship in the fleet. Change formation. Break pattern. Do the unexpected. Attack where they do not expect. Retreat where they expect you to advance. Be chaos. The human ships scattered like leaves in a wind. They darted and weaved and struck from impossible angles. The Tyranni computers could not track them. The Tyranni commanders could not predict them. Ships that should have died lived. Shots that should have missed hit. Lieutenant Unicho was a fighter pilot. She was 23 years old, the youngest pilot in the fleet. She was also the most reckless. Command, I have a shot at the flagship shield generator, she reported. But I need to get close. Very close. Hannah's voice came back immediately. Negative, Lieutenant. You will not survive. Maybe not, Una said. But if I take out that generator, the Defiance can finish them. Right. She smiled, though no one could see it. Permission to be stupid, Captain? There was a long pause. Then Hannah sighed. Permission granted. Make it count. Una pushed her fighter to maximum speed. Enemy fire filled the space around her. She dodged, she weaved, she flew like no human had ever flown before. Her fighter took damage. Warning lights screamed at her. She ignored them. The shield generator was ahead. A massive structure on the side of the Tyranni flagship. If she could destroy it, the flagship would be vulnerable. She armed her missiles. She aimed. She fired. The generator exploded in a ball of light. Yuna tried to pull away, but her damaged fighter would not respond. She closed her eyes and waited for death. It did not come. A human cruiser, half destroyed and barely flying, swept in front of her. It took the enemy fire meant for her. It gave her time to escape. "Get out of here, Lieutenant," the cruiser captain said. His voice was calm, even as his ship fell apart around him. "Tell them we fought well," the cruiser exploded. Yuna flew through the debris, tears streaming down her face. On the ground, the battle was even more brutal. 2 million Tyranni soldiers poured onto Kellen 4 like a flood. They had tanks and artillery and weapons that could level mountains. They expected the humans to surrender or die. General Deho had other plans. "We do not fight them in the open," he told his soldiers. "We fight in the shadows. We fight in the night. We fight where they cannot find us." The humans scattered into the forests and mountains. They hid in caves and tunnels. They attacked in small groups, striking quickly and then disappearing before the Tyranni could respond. The Tyranni did not understand this kind of war. They were trained to fight armies, not ghosts. They were trained for victory, not survival. They had never faced an enemy that refused to lose. The first night, the humans killed 10,000 Tyranni soldiers. The second night, they killed 20,000 more. By the third day, the Tyranni commanders were afraid to send their troops into the wilderness. Private Minho was 19 years old. He had been a farmer before the war. Now, he was a killer. He and his squad found a Tyranni patrol in a narrow valley. 12 enemy soldiers, heavily armed, completely confident. They did not see the humans hiding in the rocks above them. Minna gave the signal. His squad opened fire. The Tyranni died before they could raise their weapons. One of them was still alive, wounded and bleeding. He looked up at Minho with confusion in his eyes. "How?" the Tyranni asked. "We are warriors. You are nothing. How are you winning?" Minho knelt beside him. "Because we have nothing to lose," he said quietly. "You fight for glory. We fight for survival. There is a difference." The Tyranni died without understanding. After 72 hours, the battle ended. The Tyranni retreated, leaving behind 60% of their forces, dead or captured. Human losses were terrible. 40% of their ships, 30% of their soldiers, but Kellen 4 still stood. In his command ship, Warlord Brix received the casualty report. He read the numbers 3 times, unable to believe them. In 300 years of conquest, he had never lost a battle. Now he had lost his entire invasion force to a species that had been traveling among the stars for less than 50 years. His aide waited nervously. "My lord, what are your orders?" Brix was silent for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet. "We underestimated them," he said. "That was a mistake. A mistake I will not make again." He turned to the window and stared at the stars. Somewhere out there, humanity was celebrating their victory. They thought they had one. They had won nothing. This was only the beginning. "Prepare for a full mobilization," Brix ordered. "Every ship, every soldier, every weapon we have." His eyes hardened. "We will crush them, no matter the cost." The war had truly begun. 1 year into the war, the galaxy watched in disbelief. Humanity was not dying. Humanity was winning. The Tyranni had attacked with everything they had. Millions of soldiers. Thousands of ships. Weapons that could crack planets. It should have been enough. It should have been more than enough, but humans did not fight like other species. Admiral. He was everywhere at once, appearing where the enemy least expected him, striking at weak points they did not know existed. His tactics made no sense to the Tyranni commanders. He attacked when he should have retreated. He retreated when he should have attacked. He sacrificed ships that seemed important and protected ships that seemed worthless, and he kept winning. The Battle of Rinar Crossing destroyed 3 Turani fleet groups in a single day. The raid on Tokon Station captured enough supplies to fuel the human war effort for a year. The defense of New Sol became legendary. 100 ships holding against 5,000 for 6 days, until reinforcements arrived. Other species began to whisper among themselves. The humans are winning. The humans might actually win. Delegate Keth of the Renari Collective watched these events with growing interest. The Renari were an old species, peaceful and thoughtful. They had voted against the Purification Protocol, though their single vote had meant nothing against the overwhelming majority. Now they wondered if they had been right all along. Keth sent a secret message to Ambassador June Park. They met in a hidden location, a small station far from any patrol routes. The Renari wish to speak with you, Keth said. We believe this war is a mistake. We believe peace is still possible. June studied the alien carefully. Keth was small, with soft features and gentle eyes. Not a warrior species. Not a threat. But the Renari were ancient and wise, and their words carried weight in the galaxy. Many believed peace was possible before, June said. Then, the Assembly voted to exterminate us. Keth lowered his head. Yes, that was wrong. Many of us knew it was wrong, but we were afraid to speak. We are not afraid anymore. What changed? You, Keth said simply. We were told humans were primitive. We were told you'd be easy to destroy. We were wrong. He paused. The Renari do not wish to be your enemies, Ambassador. We wish to be your friends. June thought about this for a long time. Part of him wanted to refuse. The galaxy had tried to kill his people. They deserved to suffer. But another part of him, the part that still remembered hope, whispered something different. War could not last forever. Eventually, there had to be peace. And peace required friends. What do you propose? He asked. Keth outlined a plan. The Renari would secretly support humanity. They would share intelligence, provide supplies, and convince other species to break from the Assembly. In return, humanity would promise not to harm Renari worlds when the war ended. June returned to his ship and contacted Captain Hannah Kim. She listened to his report with a frown. You trust them? She asked. No, June admitted. But we cannot win this war alone. Sooner or later, we will run out of ships, out of soldiers, out of everything. We need allies. Hannah was silent for a moment. Then she nodded. You are right. I do not like it, but you are right. Be careful, Ambassador. The galaxy has taught us that kindness is often a trap. June smiled sadly. But sometimes you have to take the risk. Over the next few months, the secret alliance grew. The Renari brought others into the fold. The Veth Consortium, masters of trade and commerce. The Kellen hierarchy, an ancient military power that had grown tired of Turani aggression. The Marine Collective, scientists who believed in cooperation over conflict. 12 species in total. 12 species who chose to stand with humanity against the Assembly. High Speaker Vorn watched his coalition crumble. He had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had never seen anything like this. They are defecting, his aide reported. Every day, more species break their oaths to the Assembly. They fear the humans more than they fear us. Vorn closed his ancient eyes. They should fear us, he said quietly. We built this galaxy. We maintained order for 1,000,000 years. And now, these insects are tearing it apart. What should we do, High Speaker? Vorn did not answer for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was heavy with exhaustion. Let the Turani handle them. Warlord Brix has promised victory. Let him deliver it. Warlord Brix was preparing the largest military operation in galactic history. He had gathered every ship from every corner of his empire. He had drafted every soldier, trained every pilot, built every weapon he could imagine. His target was not some distant colony. His target was Earth itself. One strike, he told his commanders. One massive strike at the heart of human civilization. Destroy their homeworld and they will collapse. They are sentimental creatures. They cling to their origins. Without Earth, they will have nothing to fight for. His commanders nodded eagerly. After a year of defeats, they were hungry for victory. Admiral Tae-woo learned of the plan through Renari intelligence. He called an emergency meeting of his highest officers. "They are coming," he said. "Everything they have. Every ship, every weapon. They will be here in 3 months." General Daeho studied the tactical projections. "We cannot stop them. Not with what we have. They outnumber us 5-1. "I know," Tae-woo said quietly. Captain Hannah Kim leaned forward. "There is another option. Project Blackstar." The room went silent. Everyone knew about Blackstar. Everyone hoped it would never be used. Tae-woo shook his head slowly. "That is the last resort. If we use it, we become what they accused us of being. Monsters." "Better to be monsters than to be dead," Hannah said. "Is it?" Tae-woo looked at her with tired eyes. "If we destroy the Tarani homeworld, we kill billions of innocent people. Children who never heard of this war. Families who just want to live in peace." He paused. "What will we become if we do that?" No one had an answer. That night, Tae-woo visited Dr. Sora Lee in her laboratory. Blackstar hummed quietly in its containment field, a small sphere containing the power to kill stars. "Can it be ready in time?" he asked. Sora nodded slowly. "Yes, I can have it operational within a week." Tae-woo stared at the weapon for a long time. He thought about his grandchildren who lived on Earth. He thought about all the people he had sworn to protect. He thought about the price of survival. "Prepare it," he said finally. "But pray we never have to use it." Sora closed her eyes. "I have been praying since the day I built it." 3 months later, the Tarani Grand Armada entered human space. 15,000 ships, carrying death for an entire world. The final battle was about to begin. The Tarani Grand Armada arrived in the Sol system on a cold morning in December. 15,000 warships, each one carrying enough firepower to level a continent. Behind them came the troop transports, millions of soldiers eager to walk on the ashes of Earth. Warlord Brix stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Conqueror, and smiled. This was the moment he had been waiting for. 1 year of humiliation was about to end. "All ships advance," he commanded. "Destroy everything. Leave nothing alive." The human fleet was waiting for them. 3,000 ships, arranged in a defensive formation around Earth. It was everything humanity had left. Every ship, every pilot, every weapon. Admiral Tae-woo watched the enemy approach on his tactical display. His face showed no fear. He had known this day would come. He had prepared for it as best he could. "All ships," he said calmly, "hold the line. For Earth. For humanity. For everyone who cannot fight." The battle began. Tarani weapons filled the space around Earth with fire. Human ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. The defensive line buckled, wavered, but did not break. Captain Hannah Kim commanded the UES Defiance from the center of the formation. Her ship had been repaired a dozen times since Kellen 4. It was more patches than original hull now. But it still flew. It still fought. "Target the lead battleships," she ordered. "Focus fire. Take them down one at a time." The Defiance and her sister ships unleashed everything they had. Tarani battleships died, but more took their place. There were simply too many. An hour into the battle, the Defiance took a direct hit to its reactor core. Warning alarms screamed. Damage reports flooded in. The ship was dying. Hannah looked at her crew. Some were injured. Some were crying. All of them were still at their stations, still doing their jobs. "Evacuate," she ordered. "Everyone to the escape pods. Now." Her first officer grabbed her arm. "Captain, you need to come with us." Hannah shook her head. "Someone needs to pilot this wreck. I am going to ram it into their command ship." "Captain, that is in order." She smiled, and there were tears in her eyes. "Tell my sister I love her. Tell her I am sorry I missed her wedding." The crew evacuated. Hannah sat alone on the ruined bridge, guiding her dying ship toward the enemy. The Tirani command ship saw her coming. They fired everything they had. The Defiance was torn apart, piece by piece. But Hannah did not stop. She pushed through the fire, through the pain, through the fear. At the last moment, she opened a communication channel. "Tell my mother I am sorry I missed dinner," she whispered. The Defiance hit the command ship at full speed. Both vessels disappeared in a ball of white light. On Earth, the battle had reached the surface. Tirani dropships had breached the atmosphere. Soldiers were landing in cities around the world. General Deho commanded the ground defense from a bunker. Beneath Seoul, he was surrounded by screens showing disaster after disaster. New York was burning. Tokyo was under siege. London had fallen. "General," his aide said, "we are losing. We cannot hold them." Deho looked at the screens. He thought about surrender. He thought about saving whatever lives he could by ending the fight. Then he thought about what the Tirani would do to those lives after the surrender. There would be no mercy. There never was. "We hold," he said quietly. "Until the last soldier. Until the last bullet. We hold in orbit." Admiral Tae-woo watched his fleet die around him. Half his ships were gone. The survivors were damaged, exhausted, running out of ammunition. The Tirani were pushing through. They were almost in range of Earth's cities. Tae-woo opened a channel to Dr. Sora Lee. "It is time." Sora was waiting in the Black Star control room. Her hand hovered over the activation button. One press, and the Tirani's sun would collapse. One press, and billions would die. She thought about Hannah Kim, who had given her life for a few more minutes. She thought about all the soldiers fighting and dying on Earth. She thought about what they were trying to protect. And then she thought about the Tirani children who had never asked for this war, the families who just wanted to live. The innocent who would burn along with the guilty? She pulled her hand back. "Admiral," she said, "I cannot do it." Tae-woo closed his eyes. "I understand, but there is another way." Sora opened a broadcast on all frequencies. Every ship in the system, human and Tirani, heard her voice. "This is Dr. Sora Lee of Earth. I am speaking to the Tirani fleet. We have a weapon aimed at your homeworld. One command, and your son will die. Your planet will be crushed into nothing. Billions of your people will cease to exist." She paused and took a deep breath. "We could fire it now. We could end your species forever. You tried to do the same to us. Many would say we have the right." In his flagship, Warlord Brix listened with growing horror. He had heard rumors of a human superweapon. He had not believed them. "But we are not you," Sora continued. "We do not want genocide. We do not want extinction. We want to live. We want our children to grow up in a galaxy without fear." Her voice cracked. "We want peace." There was silence across the system. "Stand down," Sora said. "Please end this. Let us find another way." For a long moment, nothing happened. The battle continued. Ships died. Soldiers fell. Then a Tirani destroyer powered down its weapons. Its captain had 3 children on the homeworld. Another ship followed. Then another. Then dozens. Warlord Brix screamed orders to continue the attack. "Fire. Keep firing. We are winning." But his captains were not listening. They were thinking about their families. They were thinking about what they would lose if the humans fired their weapon. Brix tried to take manual control of his flagship's weapons. Before he could, his own officers stopped him. "Enough," his first officer said. "We have lost enough." Brix stared at him in disbelief. "You dare betray me. We dare to survive." The officer nodded to his guards. They raised their weapons. The Conqueror exploded moments later. Whether it was the mutineers or a final attack from a human ship, no one ever knew. With their warlord dead and their homeworld threatened, the Tirani fleet surrendered. The war was over. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy changed. The Galactic Assembly was dissolved. A new council formed, one where every species had an equal voice, where humanity sat not as inferiors, but as equals. Ambassador June Park delivered the closing address. He looked older now, worn by years of war and loss. But his voice was still strong. "You feared what we might become," he said. "Now you know. We became survivors. We became warriors. And when we had the power to destroy you, we chose mercy instead." He looked around the hall at the representatives of 100 species. Some had been enemies. Some had been allies. All of them were watching with new respect. "We do not want your worship," June continued. "We do not want your submission. We want your friendship. We want to build something better together. A galaxy where no species has to fear extinction. Where children can grow up looking at the stars with hope instead of terror." He paused. "Can we do that? I do not know. But I believe we can try." Years passed. The galaxy healed slowly. Admiral Tae-woo retired to a small house by the sea. He planted a garden and watched the waves and tried to forget the faces of everyone who had died under his command. Dr. Sora Lee dismantled Project Black Star herself, piece by piece, component by component. The weapon that could kill stars was scattered across a dozen asteroids. Never to be rebuilt, a memorial was built on Kellen 4, where the first battle had been fought. It listed every name of every soldier who had fallen, human and alien alike. At the entrance, a simple inscription read, "They fought. They died. They are not forgotten." General Daeho visited the memorial every year on the anniversary of the battle. He never spoke. He just stood there remembering Captain Hannah Kim's body was never found. The explosion had been too complete. But her name was carved on a wall of heroes in Seoul, alongside thousands of others who had given everything. Lieutenant Unicho, who had survived against all odds, became a captain herself. She taught a new generation of pilots at the academy. Her students were human, Renari, Kellen, and even a few Tirani. "The galaxy thought we were monsters," she told them on the first day of every class. Maybe we were. Maybe we still are. But monsters can learn to be gentle. And so can everyone else. The stars shone on as they always had. But now, when humans looked up at them, they did not see enemies or threats. They saw possibilities, and that was enough.